You are looking at a true wonderland, a place of natural beauty and inspiration. The seemingly otherworldly landscape, the nobility of the wildlife, the endless recreation opportunities, all found in one location to give you a lifetime of memories. This is Yellowstone National Park. How do you measure the value of our national parks? That was the question our Congress asked itself in 1864. Today, the question might be, how do you measure the value of a memory?
You can't. It connects with your soul.
If you live in this country, you should visit these national parks because they're gorgeous. And you gotta go.
Through picturesque North Gate, we enter Yellowstone National Park. Since the beginning of time, nature has carried on the never-ending creation of fantastic wonders in Yellowstone National Park.
Billions of visitors from around the world have descended upon the majestic lands of Yellowstone National Park since its inception 152 years ago. Yellowstone encompasses more than 2.2 million acres, offering near-endless opportunity to those who seek its solace and inspiration. But now a challenge emerges. With so many coming to these lands, 3.3 million annually, how do we keep it enjoyable for all? Well, park leaders say they're trying to take a more proactive and collaborative approach to manage the park's resources, its people, and its wildlife effectively.
It's a tremendous responsibility. It's a tremendous privilege. There's so many people that care about this place. It's important that we take care of it for the future. So many people come here, a record number coming here to enjoy it. That's a topic that's worth discussion for the future. How many is too many, and what's the right number, and that kind of thing. But a lot of divergent opinions on what we should be doing and how we should be doing it.
Superintendent Cam Shawley has led the operations at Yellowstone National Park since 2018. In his 5 years here, he's navigated a pandemic, a 500-year flood event, and exponential visitor growth. Daunting for most, yes, but it's something he and his team of 1,300 staff and volunteers are embracing both inside the boundaries of the park and outwards towards the neighboring towns and communities.
It's a continual process to try to make those relationships better and stronger and build trust and, be able to communicate to people when they disagree with a decision, why a decision was made, make sure your decision making is defensible and that kind of thing. And it's a challenge, and you can't please everybody, but we enjoy tremendous support, and it's a very important place to this country.
Now, the park's origins took a lot of that same support, communication, and trust. In the fall of 1871, Americans became aware of Yellowstone's many natural wonders after geologist Ferdinand Hayden returned from a federally funded expedition to assess the region's geological, mineralogical, zoological, botanical, and agricultural resources. It was an immense tract of land, more than 1,700 square miles, actually larger than the state of Rhode Island. Preserving it, some believed, was an act unique in the world, worthy of a great republic. That great national park is such an idea, one of Hayden's fellow geologists wrote to him, as could only originate in America. Hayden's expedition had proven that Yellowstone was in fact useless for agricultural, mining, or manufacturing purposes. Therefore, its highest and best use would be as a place of resort for scientists and for tourists. On March 1st, 1872, the Yellowstone Act was placed on President Grant's desk in the Executive Mansion. Grant signed it, along with several other bills with no statement, no fanfare. But it was an auspicious moment for the nation and for the history of conservation. The United States Congress had just created the first national park in the world for the benefit and enjoyment of the people.
This isn't my park. This isn't the National Park Service's park. This is your national park. So when you come here, our hope is that we can help you find ways to find that value for you.
Discovering Yellowstone, for the vast majority, requires guidance and education and, of course, monetary funds. Within the park's boundaries sit 1,443 buildings, 517 housing units, 21 campgrounds, more than 1,100 miles of trails, 23 water and wastewater systems, nearly 400 miles of paved roads, 61 unpaved, and more than 300 other assets, including trail bridges, boardwalks, marinas, and monuments. All of this totaling about $1 billion in deferred maintenance and repairs. The park also has an estimated $48 million on its annual routine maintenance checklist.
There's a lot broken that needs to be fixed. And, I think we've got somewhere around $400 million of Great American Outdoors Act funds that are at work right now. A lot of major projects that are finished last year, going to finish this year, are in the queue for the upcoming years. Yellowstone River Bridge going out toward Lamar Valley is a great example of a $118 million new bridge that not only provides access to Lamar Valley, which is basically the North American Serengeti, and also to Cook City and Silvergate, but is very important for a variety of different reasons.
But even with the amount of money being spent within the park, the economic output related to Yellowstone is nothing short of incredible. A recent NPS report estimates visitors to Yellowstone spent $452 million in communities near the park in 2022. That spending supported more than 6,000 jobs in the local area, creating a cumulative benefit to the local economy of $600 million. And what makes this even more incredible, during that year, historic flooding forced the closure of the park from June 13th through the 21st. In fact, 2 of the northern entrances were shuttered until mid to late October.
I think that the flood, although now I think that was an incredible team effort, both in the park and out of the park, to get these 2 corridors reconnected within 4 months, to get 50% of the park opened in 8 days and 93% of the park opened in 20 days. Is a testament to the team and the partners.
Shawley and his team are still dealing with the fallout from the flood event that was so powerful. At one point, more than 50,000 cubic feet of water per second was measured flowing down the Yellowstone River. Discussions for permanent repairs from the flood damage are still ongoing. In fact, the public comment period for the north entrance road will continue until March 13th, 2024.
That's a beautiful thing about these older hotels. While the rooms may be a little smaller, they don't have all the amenities. It kind of causes you to go into the public space
And congregate with other humans.
That's exactly how they were designed.
Yeah. Coming up, winter at Yellowstone and what to expect. How you can enjoy the majesty of the world's first national park during off-season.
If it's not frozen, just assume it's hot.
Wintertime in Yellowstone offers a different type of experience than most would get to have during peak summer months. The beauty of the landscape is accentuated by the serenity of the freshly fallen snow. There are far fewer visitors inside the park this time of year, though traffic jams can still exist, but maybe in a less traditional manner. There are still restaurants where you can dine and gift shops where you can peruse. You still have the opportunity to stay overnight, but instead of the 9 hotels and 2,300 rooms to choose from in the summer months, you have 2 hotels offering 230 rooms. Well, we spent the afternoon with Rick Honinghausen, a wonderful man who has spent more than 3 decades in the park, now with Xanterra, the company managing the on-site accommodations.
I feel like people might come in with a preconceived notion. What should the average visitor look forward to if they're not pulling their own camper, if they're not in their own RV? Should they be looking forward to?
The standard out in the world, even for economy hotels, is swimming pools and internet and television and all that. So they're used to that. But so for some, there's a little bit of a change. What do you mean there's nothing here? And to watch.
There's no karaoke on a Tuesday night?
Well, you can start your own, but but there's not that there. But that's another upside of a place here and where we're located. This area, Montana, Wyoming, Yellowstone. I don't have a TV. There's nothing to keep me in the room. I'm going to go down to the lobby. And that's a beautiful thing about these older hotels. Well, the rooms may be a little smaller. They don't have all the amenities. It kind of causes you to go into the public space
and congregate with other humans.
That's exactly how they were designed.
Yeah.
That was the deal.
Yeah.
And it still happens today. Occasionally we'll get letters from previous guests. Hey, when we were there, we met Bob and Alice from Iowa.
Yeah.
Can you put us in touch with them? We never got their address. It's like, well, yeah, we may need a little more information.
Yeah.
But we have then, in cases, reached out. If we could figure out who they were, we'll reach out to Bob and Alice. Hey, this other couple would like to connect. Do you mind if we share your contact information? Or they said we could share theirs. Here's theirs if you want to reach out.
Gotcha.
I mean,
that's
I'm
very
sure
cool.
that happens elsewhere too, but it happens here enough where it's a thing.
Yeah.
And that speaks to the community that can be developed and enjoyed in a place like Yellowstone.
The roadway from Mammoth to Silvergate and Cook City is managed year-round. But if you want to experience other portions of the park, you'll have to hitch a ride.
This is a vehicle on low-pressure tires. It's our snow coaches that we operate. They have tires that are designed to float over the surface of the snow to make for a nice, smooth ride for our guests.
Tristan Plummer is one of the snow coach drivers who is responsible for shuttling visitors from one section of the park to the other during the winter.
Our main route is to go from Mammoth to Old Faithful and then take people who are staying at the Snow Lodge back to Mammoth. So that's a route that happens every single day. And then we have some other tours that we do that might do the lower loop or go to canyon, different wildlife tours.
In addition to navigating the snow and ice, Tristan offers educational tidbits along the way. There are scheduled stops where riders can get out to explore, stretch their legs, and soak in some of the beauty of this winter wonderland.
I mean, look at this place. It's special, it's unique, it's different every day. Where else are you going to see 10,000 thermal features? Where else are you going to get to see bison and bears and wolves all interacting with one another? It's not very many places you get all that. This place is pretty special that way.
Whether it's a first-time visit or otherwise, Tristan and the other folks working here are determined to make the most of your experience.
Well done. Good job.
Well done.
I hope that I'm able to impart my love of this park to them so that they can love it as much as I do. That's my goal.
That goal is shared by members of the Park Service staff, public servants who are committed to sharing the beauty of the park with all who visit. Coming up, one of the National Park Service rangers will share her love of some of the park's most prominent features, the geysers. One of the most distinctive features of Yellowstone National Park are the geysers, Old Faithful being the most iconic, of course, seen on posters and imagery around the world. But she is just one of the more than 10,000 thermal features that exist within the park's boundaries. These plumes of hot water and steam have long been a source of fascination and wonder to both visitors and staff. Shannon Marchok is one of Yellowstone's park rangers. She's guided visitors through the park's thermal network for decades. And even today, her enthusiasm for the geysers is infectious.
I mentioned before that change is a constant thing here.
Yeah.
So an exact number are actually tough to give you. But this geyser basin, the upper geyser basin alone, close to 150.
That's
They're not all as tall as Old Faithful. For instance, this is Split Cone.
okay.
Split Cone, a friend of mine likes to say, sometimes erupts to the dizzying heights of 6 inches.
Hey, every little bit counts. Though. That's
But
okay.
that also
It's okay.
tells you a lot. You were asking me about how they work, right?
Yeah.
That tells you a lot about how this works, because if you look out here, you see Old Faithful, you see Split Cone, and that's it. That's all that's out there. There's nothing sharing what Old Faithful needs to be a geyser.
Interesting.
So it's pretty predictable.
Yeah.
With Old Faithful, very direct relationship
I see.
between how long it erupts for and how long you wait until it erupts again. We time it, we predict it. If we go down here and look at this, this is Geyser Hill.
Okay.
Those 150 geysers, 50 of them right out there. A lot of thermal features out there. Some really fun things out there. Look at all of that steam.
That is quite remarkable. And so my other thought goes to what's happening underneath what we see with our eyes.
Right?
What's below the surface?
I can go there. Yellowstone sits on top of a tremendous heat source. I think most people intellectually are aware at some point a really big caldera collapsed here because of a volcanic explosion.
Correct.
The vastness of that explosion is really, really difficult for us to conceive. But I can tell you that ash extends almost from the ocean to I-35. How about that? That's a big explosion.
That's a pretty big explosion.
That's a big explosion. So that's volcanism on a vast scale.
Okay.
We're used to looking at things that erupt a few times in our lifetime, like maybe a Mount St. Helens.
Of course.
This functions on a very, very different scale. So it's hard to think of it sometimes as being active, but it is.
Yeah.
And one of the expressions of that is all of this, because below us is still that heat source.
Yeah.
So that is what fuels everything that you see here. The type of rock that you have overlaid here, because after it exploded, all of those lava flows occurred, right? So lava flows can be really tall, right? Some of those ridges you see out there, those are old lava flows that have hardened up.
Okay,
How about that?
what I'm looking at, right, that was a lava flow.
Some of it is.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So the size can be
Wow.
really phenomenal. At Black Sand Basin, you have a really nice view of the edge of a lava flow right behind you. So geysers, in the process of all their life business, believe it or not, kind of build their own plumbing system.
Yes.
Water's flowing underground, gets heated up, starts to dissolve some mineral.
Yeah.
As it's rising, cooling, deposits mineral. It is building its own watertight plumbing system underground by sealing itself in with that mineral.
Oh.
That allows pressure to build. Geysers are an expression of pressure being released. And then once the pressure is released, the eruption starts, but it builds again because that heat source is still there and the water is still flowing.
What captured your imagination? When did you start learning about this and went, I gotta learn more about this. This is something wild.
It's funny because when I was in college, geology was one of the options,
Yeah.
right? And I never even considered it.
It's rocks,
geology,
dirt.
exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Geology about rocks. I came here with my family when I was in college, and I was like, I've got to go back. And I came here initially intending to work one summer, and I worked in the hotels, like so many people.
Sure.
But I spent a lot of my time in the geyser basin and watching geysers. And there was some point I can remember sitting on a bench in front of one of these geysers and going, wait a minute, this is geology happening right now. Why didn't I do that? So that kind of inspired my passion to learn more about it when I didn't have the training.
And I think of that, and I think when you were talking about this, I'm looking around, you got these kids over here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It might be the thing that inspires them.
I hope so.
That's the next generation
Sure.
of people that go, hey, wait a minute, we can learn more, we can share more. And so your job is a rewarding job, I imagine, on multiple levels.
Mm-hmm.
But to see that click in somebody, I mean, that's got to be.
It is.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
You feel good.
With those future generations in mind, park leaders return to the burning question. How can it be possible to keep Yellowstone a safe sanctuary for wildlife and visitors alike? How is it possible to maintain the balance between the natural untouched landscape and the necessary infrastructure development that gives people access to the park's wonders?
When are you starting to see impacts to different types of resources or the visitation level starting to overwhelm your infrastructure capacity?
Coming up, a glimpse into the park's future and what it might take to keep the park accessible to all. As Yellowstone looks forward to the next 150 years, park staff are faced with a question that poses a dilemma: how to continue handling millions of visitors every year without increasing their development and footprint further into the park.
You know, if you were a municipality and you went from, 100,000 population to, 500 to 1 million, whatever the case is, you would build more schools, you'd 2-lane roads, you'd build more infrastructure capacity. That's not in the future here. I think generally speaking, the developed footprint that you see in this park is where we want to keep it for the future. There is a considerable amount of development in Yellowstone, but it's 0.23% of the park.
There are several important upgrade projects underway, with more coming down the pipeline. But there's also the cost of maintaining the whole park to consider. With the current price of admission to Yellowstone, $35 a car for a day pass, Shawley says visitors pay about a dime into the park. He says he wants to keep the park affordable, but the increasing cost of labor and supplies is forcing them to take a hard look at that entrance fee.
People that are actually, people don't understand what it takes to empty 2,000 garbage cans 3 times a day instead of 1, or clean 700 bathrooms 4 times a day instead of 2.
One of the other ideas Shawley shared is the possibility of introducing a reservation system as a way to better manage the flow of people coming into the park. He says there are conversations around these ideas in Washington, D.C. and in the surrounding communities. Now, there's no pressing deadline for these decisions, but he says they want to consider every possibility and perspective as they continue to move forward. In the few days we spent exploring and learning about the park, every person we came across had a unique relationship and respect for Yellowstone. And above all, we came away with a new appreciation for the way this natural wonder continues to impact visitors from around the globe. When our forefathers dreamt up the idea of a Yellowstone or a National Park Service, you kind of have to wonder, did they have any idea? Could they conceive the notion and understand how large of an impact this place would have outside of its borders?
So you guys are pretty okay with them thinking this place was worthless that many years ago?
Thank heavens. Thank heavens. It's just sort of a total aside. A couple of years ago, we were in South Africa and we were on safari. And our guide on safari went on and on and on about how Yellowstone and the national park system in the U.S. was an inspiration for the creation of national parks in South Africa. And that was part of the story I had never heard before, and that was so wonderful to hear, because you see what they have done with their preserves. And it's just, who knows, if Yellowstone hadn't been created, it might be an entirely different world.